Donk Nation, Jackson, Janet's greetings and welcome to your Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you some nonsensical Steelers talk that's going to try to make sense of what's happened so far in this offseason and the draft that, of course, just happened. Gingy, draft, pretty darn good. This is the highest rated I've ever had a Steelers draft in terms of versus the competition. How you feeling about it?
Let's go. Gingy in the house. Donkey, I like it. Getting the beef up front. Getting a few guys in the back end of the draft for maybe sure up the secondary.
I'll talk about how I don't like either of the 6-rounders. That's the spot I think they missed. But fair enough. Keep going. There is an undrafted free agent, by the way, though, that I love.
Big steal in the 3rd round, in my opinion. Couple of Wilsons.
Both of them, yeah.
Couple of Wilsons, Donkey.
Yeah, I like both of those picks. We talked about the first of the Wilsons, of course, last week. But first, before we start breaking down the draft, Gingy, the Steelers have 2 fifth-year options. Najee Harris, and of course, recently traded for Justin Fields. Neither one of them picked up. Are you surprised?
Yes, kinda.
Me too, because unless they're working on an extension with Najee that pays him less than $6 million a year, I don't really understand this. Because if he gets into the franchise tag, he's going to cost you more. And unless your plan is to move on from him, then you really, really needed to do something to get that filled up this year. I mean, Jaylen Warren's a good back, but he's not a guy that's going to fill that role. I'd prefer to bring a rookie in to compete. Now, maybe the undrafted kid out of Georgia is what they're looking at, but I'm a little surprised they didn't pick up Najee because at first I was like, you don't pick it up because you don't pay running backs. But at $6 million, dude, maybe you do pick it up just not to risk losing him?
I don't think that that's a very cost investment for investment versus production. Donkey, he puts the production out there. So there has been an up and down relationship with Najee Harris, I'm not going to lie. There are times when I thought he's there. There are times when I thought he wasn't, right?
But, he's clearly overall, a 4th-round draft pick who was way overdrafted, but that should be held against the value that he does have. We've seen running backs sign this offseason. I mean, Austin Eckler, who's old, more injury-prone, and coming off a worse season, signed for almost $4.5 million a year. So when you're talking $6 million for a younger back like Najee, who has more work put in, I'm not sure this was the proper move on behalf of the Steelers. Because do I think he's on Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey level? No, but those dudes are getting $14 million a year. Let's say Najee goes out and has a mini Henry season in Arthur Smith's system. Man, we're going to be looking a fool if that's what he does this season. And I'm not sold on it. I've said that before. But I just don't see the potential risk here when you consider the players that we've paid $6 million to come in and underperform, a la a washed-up Patrick Peterson or DeMonte KZ or $10 million to Larry Ogunjobi. You're telling me those dudes are worth it, but you're not even willing to risk Najee taking a step forward in this offense?
I agree, Donkey. Again, for a guy with multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and I think it's a really good point that you made where you're going to have to pay him more if he does pop off in a new system this year.
The only thing I can assume is there's an extension coming, but to me, if this is an extension that pays him $6 million or more a year, it's a big swing and a miss, because why wouldn't you wait till next year to extend him when you already have him at $6 million? So unless there's an extension coming where his per-year value is under this 6, this move just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now, obviously not picking up Justin Fields does make sense to me, because if the dude doesn't work out, you know, you don't
That's
really
very
want to have to keep
20.
him. Yeah. And I'm not sure the Steelers are really sold on Justin Fields when you hear the rumor that they're thinking about using him as a kick returner. You don't do that to a quarterback. Is Justin Fields literally...
Earn your spot. Earn your spot. We want team players, Donkey.
I do want team players, but I don't want to risk my best quarterback on a kick return. Sorry, Russ, but I said what I said.
Quarterback? Question mark.
He damn well better be if we want to win this year. Let's move on. Let's get to the draft. Let's go through it. Gingy, I think 2 to 3 teams had a better draft than the Steelers. Hear me out. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think there's teams that I missed or if the Steelers did better. But I, for one, think the best draft went to the Chicago Bears. And the reason is there are 5 positions that matter in football now that have value. That's where you need to hit home runs in the first round. That's clearly offensive tackle, cornerback, quarterback, wide receiver, and, of course, pass rusher. They got arguably the best player or at least a top 10 talent at 2 of the 3 positions. When you do that, you hit a home run. I mean, Caleb Williams going with Rome Odunze, right there, the Bears have one of the best draft class without anyone else even being mentioned because those 2 potential long-term studs there, that could make the difference, especially in a division that's up for grabs.
Even if they're good for 4 or 5 years, 3 of 5 years, even if it takes them 2 years to develop and they get 3 good years with that, totally worth the value.
Just think of how much money they're saving when you look at how much Amon-Ra St. Brown got paid, when you look at how much A.J. Brown got paid, when you look at what receivers are getting paid now. Dude, receivers on rookie contracts are going to become like quarterbacks on rookie contracts, a must-have.
They're really going to have to capitalize and put a team around them, though, Donkey.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's what they failed doing with Justin Fields. We'll see how that works out there. The second team I like the draft of is the Indianapolis Colts, and they, to me, got the best pass rusher in the draft at 16. And Laiatu Latu, if you put on that kid's tape, even when he was at Washington before he transferred to UCLA due to the medical retirement Washington gave him, the injury history, yeah, I guess that's a little scary, but dude, this kid is silky smooth. He's going to walk in, and if he doesn't have at least 6+ sacks as a rookie, call me surprised. But I think 6 sacks is the minimum you're going to see out of this kid. I love Latu. And then a guy who was mocked to the Steelers at 20, and I didn't even mind, Adonai Mitchell from Texas. He falls to them in the second round at pick, 53? It was the pick right after the Steelers took Frazier. I love that pick, and I think Matt Goncalves is an NFL starting tackle, not as a rookie, maybe towards the end of his rookie year, but that's 3 positions of need that they hit home runs on and got huge value from in all 3 of those picks, although I do think Goncalves was a bit of an overdraft in the 3rd round, but if you can get a starting tackle in the 3rd round, well worth the investment.
Well, Donkey, when you're talking about good drafts, though, right? Going back to the Steelers with, let's talk about
we're right behind
pieces.
This team.
Let's say that, offensive tackle Fatanau with definitely great value for where he fell to. And a great Steelers pick. Okay, I know that we're talking about Steelers guys, right? And that's one of them, Donkey. That's one of them, right?
The bigger hit for me here, and this is the only hit I have on the Steelers, is we now have 3 left tackles and no right tackles. One of these guys is going to have to play out of position, and we've seen that Dan Moore Jr. couldn't handle it when we tried to switch him over in the preseason last year. Dan Moore Jr. couldn't handle right tackle. We saw with Broderick Jones, his best game was the Baltimore game at left tackle. Then he goes and plays right tackle, and he struggles a bit because he doesn't look natural there. My biggest concern is if Fautanu doesn't work out, Troy doesn't work out over there at right tackle, we have 3 left tackles, and Fautanu probably can move inside and play either guard positions. But my bit of concern here, and the only reason I knocked this pick just a little, and I love this pick, by the way, I think it's a great pick, not a home run. And the reason it's not a home run is purely now we have 3 left tackles.
Well, Donkey, do you think one of is our first rounder this year able to move?
Honestly, I think his better move is inside. I think he's more, because right tackles, you want a bigger guy. He's not the bigger guy. The guy who's probably best suited to play right tackle is Broderick Jones, but we saw how ugly that looked with the footwork. I don't want Broderick Jones on the right side purely because I think he has the highest ceiling as a left tackle. I think Fontanu's an instant upgrade from Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle. I don't know how he plays at right tackle because he's a bit smaller, and Everyone says it's easy to move, but how many people have we seen move positions on the offensive line and they just can't do it at the new position, right?
Yeah.
But Gingy, there's one more team I think you could say had a better draft than the Steelers. We talked about it earlier. The Philadelphia Eagles potentially getting 2 of the 3 best corners in the draft. And if you view Cooper DeJean as an outside corner, I think they had a slightly better draft than the Steelers. If you think he has to play nickel or safety, then I think the Steelers had a better draft. And I'm telling you right now, I think the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens tie in draft grades because Baltimore does this thing where they just let players slip to them, and they always get a player slipping to them that fills a need for them. I don't know how the hell they do it, but every year. And they always steal the pass rushers that I like coming out of Penn State. And they did it again this year. And then, at the end of last one, I was hammering down for TJ Tampa. And of course, he falls to them in the 4th or 5th round. I'm hammering for him in the 3rd because he should be a 2nd rounder. My God, Gingy, those damn Ratbirds, this is how they stay competitive for so long, is they just get draft picks that fall in their damn laps, dude.
Hey, we're letting it happen, Donkey.
I don't even know if we're the ones who let it happen this year, Gingy, because I love our 3rd and 4th round selections, so I can't even say it was our fault that these guys fell into their laps, right?
Yeah,
Past years I can. Past years I certainly can.
I guess we're too busy. We're too busy cleaning up the guys that let go.
Fair. Now let's get into the Steelers draft. I mean, we already talked about Troy Fautanu. There's nothing to need to talk about there. That dude is a solid player. He's a good. People think he's a 1/4 of an inch too short to be a tackle, whatever. That's stupid. Worst comes to worst, he slides into guard, and that is a good spot to draft a guard. Like I said before, Zach Frazier, I think, is a bit of a reach in the 2nd round, or not a reach. That's the wrong phrasing. A bit of an overdraft where we took him in the 2nd round, as I don't see that superstar potential that I feel a center who's a 2nd round pick should have, like the Jackson Powers Johnson type, or even Graham Barton if he would have fallen that far. I'm just not seeing that same athleticism out of Frazier. I think he's going to be a good plug and play center. Maybe not year 1, maybe year 1, but I don't think his ceiling. He's a high floor, low ceiling guy to me, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the type of player you build your roster around. Roman Wilson. 3rd round is when you start looking for sleeper picks and guys who are stolen weapons and can develop. Roman Wilson is that guy. I wouldn't be surprised you see us use him as kick returns as well. Really flashy, really hard-nosed, played in that Michigan system under Harbaugh, was arguably their best weapon, best receiver, runs in a sub 4.4 at 5'11". He's a dude who can really ball. We talked about that. I like this pick. I'm just not sure of the fit with the current Steelers system. Hopefully, this means, and you think about it, not picking up Najee Harris's option, getting more athletic linemen like Fontanu in the 1st round. Maybe we're not going to be the offense that Arthur Smith has run his whole career and that Mike Tomlin has run his whole damn life. Maybe something special's going on there. Now, Gingy, this is where we need to get to talking because these are the picks we hadn't talked about. Right before we went off, or right after we went off, the Steelers go out and they get Peyton Wilson. NC State runs a 230-pound, 6'2" linebacker, runs a 4.3 speed, 4.4 speed. Dude, this is the type of linebacker you dream on. Fell in the draft because there is huge injury concerns with him around his knees, tearing his ACLs a bunch to where I don't think he even has ACLs in his knees anymore due to all the ligament stress and tearing going on. So the big question is this kid going to have a career? And if so, if you put on his tape, he plays at 110. Dude, he is fast, he is running, he is hitting everything.
Flies around.
Now, the question is, with the depth the Steelers have, does he even see the field? But worst case scenario is he looks like the type of guy who will be a day 1 special teams ace. The big question, Gingy, did those medicals that made him drop, is everyone right about it? Is there a reason he wasn't taken earlier?
We'll have to see. The Steelers are taking a risk. I think it's a high upside, though. Real high upside. If he does see the field, he will have clearly earned it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now we can get into my favorite Steelers draft pick of the whole damn thing. And that's Mason McCormick, the guard out of South Dakota State. I know he's a bit older. I know he went to a small school, but this is a dude, just put on his tape, and year in, year out, he just gets better, and better, is willing to learn, is willing to grind up, is willing to play all positions to find and just be a sponge. Hear me out on this, and I know it's a fourth rounder, and I don't think he has the highest upside for the Steelers. This dude just absolutely reeks of Matt Fiedler to me. Like, and say what you want, that dude got a second contract as a starting tackle to go leave the Steelers for the Chargers. He really, really reminds me of that type of guy.
Matt Fiedler could get it done, from what I remember, Donkey. I don't know.
Technically sound, not the most athletic guy, but technically sound, did what he's supposed to do, and was never a liability for the Steelers, whether he was sliding outside to play tackle, sliding inside to play guard. McCormick's more of a stay at guard, potentially play center type of guy, but this is my favorite. Actually, I'm not going to lie. Troy Fautanu falling to the Steelers is my favorite pick. There's zero doubt about that. I'm just here looking at like, damn, we have a lot of left tackles now. But you can never have enough left tackles until you get a superstar one, so not complaining at all. Let the best, this is what I'll say. Pittsburgh, don't play the guy at right tackle who's the best at right tackle. Play the guy who isn't the best left tackle at right tackle, because the best player needs to play at left tackle. But Gingy, what is your thoughts of McCormick here coming out of South Dakota State, right? Yep.
Fourth round value. Donkey, it's still, I mean, shoring up the offensive line. I don't think you can have too much depth there.
Nah, every year you should be drafting at least one or two linemen in the third or fourth round. Every team should do that. That is the most important spot to get right, is the trenches. No doubt about it. And the thing is, you need superstars at the other positions. Normally those are the flashier ones. The interior linemen, the interior defensive linemen, they need to be taken in third or fourth round, and you need to hope you hit good ones. And just in case you don't, that's why you take one every year. We got two more picks, right? Logan Lee, defensive end from Iowa. What's your thoughts on him before I get into my thoughts on him?
I don't know. Is this another Leal situation?
You knew exactly where I was going.
Leal?
This is another like DeMarvin Leal, where I don't necessarily hate the player in the sixth round. Not a lot of production coming out of Iowa. Very average measurables. But Gingy, the same thing I said when we drafted Leal. This dude is not a 3-4 player. He's a 4-3 defensive end. He's not a 3-4 tackle. He's not a 3-4 nose. He's too big to be a 3-4 OLB. This is just a pick that I don't get, because it's like the Steelers draft these linemen, and it's one every other year that just don't fit the damn system. And I'm sorry, I don't see how this guy makes the roster, because even with the depth we have, at least those guys are the proper size. And yeah, I'm looking at Loudermilk, and in terms of measurables, he's not as good as Leal. I don't like this pick at all. I'll also let you get in first on this pick, because I actually have a lot to say about Ryan Watts, defensive back, played corner at Texas. A lot of people like him because they say, well, if you look at his measurables and project to move to safety, that's why he's draftable. But Gingy, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, late round picks, Donkey, you're not quite sure what you're going to get. Practice squad guys or guys that probably not
special
guys,
team fill outs is a real look here.
Yeah, and probably not a guy who's going to see
Antonio Brown
time. Well, you hope so, right? But tough at defensive back there. We'll see, Donkey. We'll see.
Gingy, the part that kills me on this is I think the Steelers' undrafted rookie free agent corner is 1,000 times better than this guy. I watch a lot of Texas football because I am a Texas fan. I enjoy that team. And Ryan Watts is terrible, okay? You put on the tape, this is a dude you wouldn't even think would play in the UFL, okay? I'm not trying to be mean. His tape is bad enough. I don't think UFL teams would want him. Then he goes out and he has a decent measurables day. He runs a 4.5, so he's not blazing fast. He's 6'1", 220, and people are like, oh, he could make a great safety. The Steelers already are paying a premium at safety. This seems like a pick that doesn't make sense to me. I would have preferred a lottery pick like Thrash, the wide receiver, 6'3", runs fast but can't catch the football. A guy who maybe becomes a difference maker. Because I've always said this. In the late rounds, there's two ways to look at it. You can draft those high character, low floor guys, or you can draft those character flaw guys with high ceiling potential, right? Like no floor, but high ceiling. The Steelers have always been a low floor, high character type of drafting team, and I just hate it because it doesn't seem to turn out players. I think they really got scared after the Antonio Brown stuff. So now it's about drafting guys who are team captains and good guys. You look at it, you look at these two guys who are out there, Watts, Logan. I don't like it. You put on the tape, this kid can't play. You put on the measurables, this kid's average at best, even at safety. I hope it works out. I just don't see it. But like I said, third or fourth best draft class in the NFL is nothing to be mad about. I don't feel much for the late round picks, but man, I love the first 4 rounds, Gingy.
Could be some really big impact guys in the first 4 rounds. Donkey guys that get second contracts, guys that you might see around for a while. Let's hope
I hope so. I certainly hope so. Now we can get to the undrafted free agents. There are only 5 of them. There's a lot of people who got rookie meeting camp invites. We won't talk about them unless the Steelers sign them because that's just a lot to talk about. But there's one name, actually there's 3 guys on this list I like. Of course, the 2 I'm not a huge fan of is Julia Westhoff, an outside, essentially a bigger version of Alex Highsmith from the same school in Charlotte, okay? And then you got Jacoby Windman, his linebacker from Michigan State, who just, his tapes, and his measurables were, And maybe it works out, but I don't think so in either of those 2 cases. I'll go from my least favorite of the 3 that I think have a chance to make it to my most, and it's John Rice Plumlee, a 2-sport athlete out of Central Florida, quarterback, ran a 4.49. A lot of people thought he was going to transfer to wide receiver when he went to the NFL, and that's what made me interested in this. Is I was like, man, former quarterback, decent size, 5, almost 6 foot, decent speed. I was like, maybe there's something there. Allegedly, the Steelers want him to be quarterback. Not sold on that, Gingy. Does Plumlee feel either way for you?
Inconsequential for me, Donkey.
Yeah, fair enough. Now we get to Dejon Edwards, a running back out of Georgia. This dude runs hard, had 800 yards for Georgia. Georgia had like a 3-back system, but if you were to watch it, this was the dude who put out the tape. Very a la hard runner a la Jaylen Warren, obviously.
A little bit better on the size. Guy.
But this is a guy that I think this is the guy that could make a roster right here. If he comes out and runs hard, much like, who was the guy we had from Ohio State the last couple years? I can't remember his name. Master Teague. If Master Teague doesn't get hurt, I think he had a chance of making the roster. I think this is going to be a guy very similar to that is going to open some eyes in the preseason and training camp, hopefully.
Let's hope so, Donkey. That'd be freaking sweet, right? Let's go.
And then let's get to a guy who, Gingy, I'm going to tell you some things, and you tell me how the hell this guy isn't drafted. The guy leads the college football in pass defended. Guy runs a 4.3 940 at cornerback. Has 4 interceptions. And is undrafted? Okay. That, of course, is none other than Beanie Bishop, cornerback, West Virginia. Yeah, he's only 5'9", but even slot corners are such value now. How does a dude who puts up those type of college numbers have a 4.3 40, so the speed is clearly there? How the hell does a guy like that go undrafted?
4.3?
4.3 940. 4.3 940, had the most pass defenses in college football and had 4 interceptions. So the numbers are there. The tape is pretty good. Honestly, that dude, if you put on the tape, he doesn't look like he plays at 5'9". He looks like he's a good 6 foot at least. I don't know how the hell this dude wasn't drafted.
flying around there, Donkey. I don't know either.
Honestly, I thought he was going to be a 4th-round pick. I know a lot of analysts only had him as a 5th or 6th-round grade. But when you put on the tape and you look at the measurables, I thought he was going to be a 4th, 5th-rounder. Man, I can't believe we got him as undrafted. I love that pickup. So, Gingy, undrafted free agents, do you think any of these 5 have a chance of making the roster?
We'll have to see. Maybe a guy surprises you. Another shifty running back.
That's what I'm hoping for, at least 2 of them to make it. And Gingy, I want to go total nonsensical right now. I didn't want to start it with it because I wanted Steelers talk to take over. But Gingy, a guy just entered the transfer portal from Oklahoma. I had no idea they had a quarterback by the name of General Booty.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I mean, that's a high priority, I think, Donkey.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm any team in college football, I am 100% looking to try and get him to come be my quarterback. Just sell all
Absolutely.
the Booty jerseys you can. Oh,
absolutely,
man.
Donkey.
All right, Gingy. We have to, of course, talk other AFC teams. I already talked about the Ravens, what I felt about their draft. Let's talk about the Bengals. Let's talk about the Browns real quick. I didn't see any huge splash from either of them. I mean, the Browns didn't pick it felt like forever. I think the Bengals were very mid-tier. 20-ish would be where I put them. So, like, C+, B- grade is where I have the Bengals. For the Browns, I have them at a solid C right now, but I will tell you right now, the defensive tackle they took out of Cincinnati and getting thrashed the wide receiver, there is a lot of boom potential in that draft. There's also a potential that none of those players make the team.
That defense still solid, though. I don't think they lost many guys, did they, Donkey?
No. But just draft-wise, that's where I feel those 2 classes fell. Anything you have to say about the AFC North draft as a whole before we wrap that part up?
Yeah, we'll wait. We'll explore that. We'll explore that another time. I'm looking at the Steelers draft right now, and I'm looking at some big beef up front. I'm really liking it, Donkey.
I love what the clear path was. Yes, I love where the clear path was. My confusion is I still feel like the Steelers are all in on this season, but somehow going all in a way you try to rebuild, which really confuses me. But whatever, we are where we are. I kind of like it. I really do like the draft as a class overall. Like I said, this is the highest I've ever rated the Steelers in terms of where they finish with everyone else. So that says a lot about it, in my opinion. There are some free agent moves that I want to talk about as some AFC teams are really worried about bettering themselves. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to Miami, a contract up to $8.5 million. Very solid ad for Miami when you consider they have Blazers out there and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Adding a guy like Beckham who's lost maybe a step, but as a third option in there, could be a really solid fit for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it really could be, Donkey. Dolphins are like explosion.
They are. My fear for the Dolphins is they've lost a lot of beef on their defensive line, the interior specifically, and their offensive line lost a lot of players, including the guy that the Steelers are still rumored with a lot, Williams, right? Connor Williams, is that right? The center that was there towards ACL. I'm really worried that they're missing the boat here by not filling in the middle of their line. And I'd have to say, one of the sneaky moves, and we were talking about it beforehand, the Buffalo Bills picking up Chase Claypool. Mapletron, we've seen him be effective before with good quarterback play. Josh Allen's a good quarterback. You could argue they're going to get good quarterback play there. If this is a guy who, failing twice has motivated him, I could see him being a huge part of what Buffalo has going on there, being a number 2 to Curtis Samuel, who I don't think is a real one, but clearly is the one there now after signing from the Commanders. I could see Claypool being a really great fit there, but then again, if he's a guy who didn't commit himself to football, he doesn't make it out of training camp. But Gingy, that move in Buffalo, a little bit intriguing, you'd have to say.
Buffalo is on the ropes right now. We've kept saying for like the last 3 or 4 years they have a window. They have a window. That window's closing though in Buffalo, Donkey.
I think they hit full reset, by the way. I think they've done a better job of resetting than the Steelers have because their older pieces, they sold them off this year. Now, they're not punting fully on the season, right? They brought in some potential guys, but none of them got huge contracts that are going to weigh down the future. When you look at bringing in Curtis Samuel, bringing in Chase Claypool, they brought in a defensive end and a corner as well on 1-year deals. The thing is, they're doing a lot of these stopgap 1-year contracts with guys who have been good before, but maybe are coming off a couple bad years. But they're not guaranteeing anything in length to any of these people. I feel like Buffalo's really doing a soft rebuild here, Gingy, with a full bore of going hard next year.
That's quite possible. Everybody except I guess half that team is in. Or half that division, excuse me. I'm thinking about who in that AFC East is in it to win.
Dolphins and Jets are all
Dolphins
in.
half are. That's what I was going to say. New England and Buffalo are in the middle
New
of
England's
it.
Drake
May.
God
What do you think about Drake May?
Do you like quarterbacks that get your coach fired?
That's hurtful.
Because that, to me, is Drake May. I mean, yeah, the arm talent's there, but I've watched enough North Carolina tape to know this dude doesn't make the best of choices. And I feel if you put him in a system where you surround him really well, it could work. But goddamn, dude, Zach Wilson 2.0, anybody?
Speaking of, how about that QB room over in Denver? Speaking of Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson's a backup, and I'm telling you right now, my betting money for Rookie of the Year right now is Bo Nix. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think he's the best quarterback. I don't think he has the best arm talent. But look what Sean Payton did with a very similar guy in New Orleans. I'm not saying Sean Payton's offense works the way it used to, but I'm telling you, put on Bo Nix's tape last year and tell me he wasn't the best or second best quarterback in college football last year.
Probably the guy that he's a Sean Payton guy. He has a Drew Brees type guy. Doesn't need much space. Throws contested in a tight best pocket passer.
It gets those arm angles 20 yards and in. Bo Nix will hit the target. That's why he struggled in Georgia. Georgia's always been a throw the ball deep type of team. That's not what Bo Nix is great at. And I'm telling you right now, that's Sean Payton builds his teams that way too. I think that to me was the biggest overdraft that I loved because of the fit. Bo Nix in the first round is a huge overdraft, but dude, do I love the fit of Bo Nix in Denver. Like, the only guy I think would have been better for them is if they would have found a way to get Baker Mayfield away from Tampa Bay.
They locked him up, though.
Yeah, Tampa wanted him because he fits what Tampa does. They can't blame him, but man, I love the Bo Nix fit, and I absolutely love it in Denver. I think that quarterback room leaves a little bit to be desired. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but my betting favorite right now would be Bo Nix for Rookie of the Year. Because you look at that, I mean, Courtland Sutton's not the greatest receiver in the world, and he's more of a deep threat, so maybe he doesn't work out in this system. But I really love, Javon Williams? They're the running back. That kid fits the system well. He's a mini Alvin Kamara, worked well in New Orleans. And don't be surprised if Michael Thomas makes his way there.
Ooh. The name you haven't heard in a minute.
Honestly, at this point, he's the receiver I want the Steelers to sign because I don't know who the hell else is available, Gingy.
We're running out of options there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I don't know. What do you think of that Denver quarterback room? Do you think it's just going to be an absolute dumpster fire?
I think it is. To be honest, at least this first year, maybe moving forward, they can develop into something, but those aren't guys that are going to lead your team right now anywhere, Donkey, do you think?
I don't see it with Zach Wilson. I didn't see it with Zach Wilson when he was drafted. You know, I said that was to me the worst pick, and I think Drake May gets saved by the fact that Michael Penix, who I actually like, got taken in the first round because that dude wasn't a first rounder. Neither was Bo Nix. But you know, it is what it is. People slobber over quarterbacks. Neither of those guys should have been first rounders, maybe late first round, kind of like Lamar Jackson was. Although I actually liked Lamar Jackson, thought he should have been an early first rounder. But man, just the way it's going now. You look at this draft, Gingy. Corners. Well, I think the first round picks were all either corners, offensive linemen, specifically tackles more so, though Graham Barton kind of screwed that up. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, and pass rushers. And of course, Brock Bowers. Because, well,
Brock Bowers out
dude's
of
a
nowhere.
stud. The dude's a stud. I can't believe he made it out of the top 10. But kind of funny he went to the Raiders because they had Michael Myers, who I actually really liked from last year's draft, but he's a more blocking tight end. That Raiders team, I'm going to tell you right now, they could technically be scary maybe, but they're the Raiders, so are they ever really scary?
I don't know, Donkey.
I'll tell you right now, it is
putting together a roster.
It is looking to me like the AFC is going to be loaded again, and you're just going to wonder what the hell is going to come out of the NFC.
We'll have to see. I think the Niners are making another run at it. Are they still loaded?
Purely because they're in the NFC. I don't think they would in the AFC. In the AFC, I think they'd be the fourth or fifth best team. In the NFC, I think they're the best team. Head and shoulders the best team currently. Philly, but I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. I'm also not sold on Brock Purdy. I just don't see how they don't make a run in because they still have all those weapons on offense, right? The defense has lost some value. And I'm going to say this like I said to you last year. And I said I don't believe in the Niners because I don't believe Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy. I don't believe in the Niners because I don't think Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy for 2 straight years. I purely don't. But if he does, that's a team to watch out for sure.
Absolutely.
That dude is
on Christian McCaffrey.
That dude is the dude. Like, you remember how New Orleans came and went with Alvin Kamara? That's exactly the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Ironic, same draft class. Kamara has never really came back because the mileage has hit him hard. McCaffrey has shown a longevity that we haven't seen in a while. Now, the counter argument could be, but Philly now with Saquon, are they in the same boat? If Saquon's healthy, man, that Philly team is kind of scary.
Yeah, and maybe McCaffrey's found his home over in that Shanahan system, right? Where a lot of different guys can take it, misdirection, et cetera, not being battered down on all the time. But definitely some luck. Definitely some luck involved.
The scare there is Kittle's a guy who's been injury prone, had a fully healthy season. Debo's a guy who's injury prone, had a mostly fully healthy season. McCaffrey's a guy who's injury prone and had a fully healthy season. That's lightning in a bottle. I don't know if you catch it twice. There have been teams that have done it before, had injury prone guys who all stayed healthy for runs. I guess it's very possible that could happen again. It's like the anti-Steeler argument from 2014 to 2017, right? Where the Steelers, man, we had the pieces, but every year we lost one, right? Every year Lev Bell got hurt at the end of the season. Every year Lev Bell went down. What happens if Lev Bell just stays healthy one of those years, right? Super Bowl run. There's no doubt about it. That's where the Niners are.
Yeah, I can see that. I can buy into that.
And I don't wish them anything bad. I don't think anything's wrong there. And I think they're in a really good spot because I think the NFC is weak again. I think they have a couple top-heavy teams and then not much depth. Where you go to the AFC, man, you're talking you might have 3 Super Bowl contenders potentially in every division, and I don't think that's a stretch to say. Miami, if Tua takes another step forward like he has been. Buffalo, if Josh Allen just decides to be Superman. And the Jets, of course, have Aaron Rodgers and really did a good job building that roster. You go to the North, which one of these teams do you want to bet against? The Steelers would be the one I would bet against in terms of Super Bowl contenders, but if Russ Wilson or Fields works out, you have 4 potential Super Bowl contenders in the North. You go to the South, the Colts looked pretty good last year without their rookie quarterback, who they are really high on. The Texans, really? And what happens if, Lawrence decides, hey, remember when everyone said I was the next Peyton? What if he actually shows it? My God, the South is stacked. And, of course, I left out one team. I'm sorry, Tennessee. I just don't see it. You go to the West. This might be the weakest of them, but Kansas City, still Kansas City. The Chargers have Harbaugh, and say what you want, Gingy. Harbaugh's winning the NFL. And, there's a couple wild cards there. The Raiders have a pretty good roster on paper, but that always seems to lead to 9-8 with them. And, man, I'm telling you, Sean Payton, if he can prove that he is a genius of a coach, this would be the year to do it. But I'm not buying in on that. But really, I feel there's an argument to make for almost every AFC team of high-end Super Bowl aspirations outside of New England and Tennessee.
AFC stacked as usual, eh, Donkey? That's the word?
That's how I feel. And I guess you could say we could make the same argument in the NFC, but we would make the argument because everybody else sucks, right?
The opposite, the inverse, yeah.
It's like once I get past the 2 elite teams there, San Francisco, Philadelphia, tell me, Gingy, am I missing an elite team in the NFC?
Are you going to talk about the Lions yet?
I love the Lions, but elite is hard for me to say. Super Bowl contenders, yes, because they're in the NFC. But elite's hard for me to say because that defense just isn't there yet. And that offense is good, not great, right? I love the Lions. I love that team. I told you last year they're my dark Lions Dolphins, baby. That's what I was going with. I love the way they made that team. They need something to be great on that team. And there's not something that's great yet. Does that make sense? Like, there's a lot of good. I'll tell you what could be the difference. If Gibbs, the running back they took in the first round last year, if that dude explodes this year, like he was good last year, if he turns into great, that is a team you could talk about. And then, of course, you have teams like Green Bay, right? If Jordan Love takes a step forward, where do they end up? You have teams like Atlanta. Does our defensive coach like Raheem Morris, along with adding a Kirk Cousins, move those weapons with Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London forward? Does the Dallas Cowboys finally put it together, Gingy? Do you have faith in that?
No, absolutely not.
Is Daniel Jones a real franchise quarterback that gives the Giants a chance? They added a lot of weapons for him. Can he take them there, Gingy?
That is a very good question. I don't see why he can't.
The dude's never thrown more touchdowns than game played in the season. That's why. Let that sink in for a minute.
What are the Giants? That is a very difficult question to answer.
The Commanders they are what they are, and they ain't very pretty. Minnesota, it ain't very pretty there. Chicago, I like the upside of that team, but not yet. Not yet, is what I'll say. You go down, what else do we have? Tampa, if Baker Mayfield plays great, you could talk about them again, but they lost a lot of key pieces on that defense specifically. Where else you got? New Orleans, I'm not feeling it at all in New Orleans. Although, look for Spencer Rattler to take over the starting quarterback job there halfway through the season. Atlanta, maybe. Carolina is a hell no for me. Then you go to the west side. You got San Fran, that legit. Seattle, I think they missed their window. I really think that first year of Geno was the year to do it. I don't feel it now. St. Louis just lost their defense, or not St. Louis, LA. The Rams just lost their defense with losing Donald. And I'm sorry, but does anyone really believe Kyler Murray can play 17 games?
Not the way that he's going right now.
And then that's the whole NFC. I don't think I missed anything, Gingy. Do you?
No, I think that about covers it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's just the way it works out. Unfortunate that all of the elite quarterbacks have ended up in the AFC. I mean, that just sucks, right? When someone takes
tough.
when Kyler Murray gets taken, it feels like Josh Allen ends up in the AFC. When Bryce Young gets taken, of course it's C.J. Stroud that ends up in the AFC, right? I mean, You want to know why I know the quarterbacks that are going to work out? I'll tell you which ones are going to work out. The ones taken in the frickin' AFC. So everybody better watch out. It's going to be Bo frickin' Nix and Drake May that somehow are the ones that work out.
Ha! I don't know about that, but we shall see, huh?
Yeah, for
It'll be
sure.
An exciting season.
No doubt about that at all. Gingy, anything else you want to talk about here on this little fun, nonsensical version of Steelers Talk?
I ain't got nothing else.
Me neither, other than I guess it's time to give a shout out. And man, my shout out, because I know Gingy doesn't do off seasons, but if he does, I'll let him go after me. My shout out is to the Schwab, man. I didn't realize Stump the Schwab died right before the draft, or I would have shouted him out last week. Man, I loved that show. And just a shout out to a dude who was in sports media as just literally an encyclopedia. The amount of stuff that dude knew, Gingy, was just absolutely impressive.
Absolutely irreplaceable. One of a kind.
Any shout out from you?
We don't do that, donkey.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So I'll let you know I'm the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter, the X. Your Daily Dose of Donkey Ginger is a fun YouTube channel where you get all this content. Here's our draft rankings. Break them down. Tell us who you thought had the best draft, what you thought about the Steelers draft, where I was clearly wrong. And, if you dare to take on the Gingy, you could ask him where he was wrong too. I'll bring you on and you can have a little showdown mano-y-mano. We'll make a little Stump the Gingy type of show in honor of the Schwab. Gingy, send it out.
Mutant Gingy in the house. Nonsensical. Draft time. Here we go, Steelers.